All right, today we're going to be looking at what we call the box method for multiplying polynomials. There are really multiple ways to multiply polynomials. We could go with the traditional distributive property to multiply polynomials, and you can find videos on that online, but I really feel like the box method is probably the most, I would say the easiest way and probably the most consistent way of multiplying polynomials without making a mistake. So if you look, the 5 steps that we're going to use are actually on the front page here of this. So if you printed it, you would want to print it front and back, and then you would want to fold it in half when we're finished. But step 1 is to draw the box. The key with drawing the box is you need to look at how many terms are in each of the things that you're multiplying. So if you were multiplying something that had, let's say we had something like 2x times 3x plus 2, well then the height of our box would be the first term. So because there's only one term, it would be a height of 1. And then because our second polynomial has 2 terms, then our box would be a 1 by 2 box. So we would put 2x here, we would put 3x here, and then a positive 2 there. So that's how we would draw the box. If it was 2 terms in the front, 2 terms in the back, we would draw a 2 by 2 box. If it was 2 terms by 3 terms, a 2 by 3, or if it was 3 by 2 or 3 by 3. So the number of terms help determine how big our box is. Then second, like I did, we're going to write the polynomials on the outside. And then third, we would multiply. And then once we multiply to get the box's values, we would look diagonally, and that would give us like terms. We would combine those like terms, and then we would write our answer in standard form. So we're going to take a look on this next page at what that would look like. All right, so here we've got a few different examples. We've got 4x minus 3, and I'll kind of move that so you can see it. And then we have 2x plus 7. So what I would do is write my 4x in the first outside box, minus 3 below it, and then 2x and a plus 7. All right, now we're going to treat this like an area problem. So we're looking in that first box, it's 4x times 2x. Well, we multiply our numbers. 2 times 4 would be 8. And then x times x would be x squared. All right, moving over to the top right box, it's 4x times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And we put the x on the back. Okay, looking again, we've got 2x here at the top. Times a negative 3, that makes a negative 6x. And then negative 3 times 7 is a negative 21. So before combining like terms, I should end up with 4 terms. And in there, if you look diagonally, right here, we have what we call like terms. Those would be the terms that we would combine. And then the cool thing is, as long as we write our original parts in standard form, from top left to bottom right should give us also our answer in standard form. So 8x squared, and then I'm going to add negative 6x plus 28x. That gives me 22x, and then minus 21. All right, moving on. I'm gonna do the second example, and then I'm going to leave you to do examples 3 and 4. And then we'll kind of move to the top and look at a couple of different ones there. So I've got 3x and a minus 1, and then 3x and a minus 1 again. All right, we go 3x times 3x, that is 9x squared. 3x times a negative 1 is a negative 3x. At the top left, 3x times negative 1 again is a negative 3x. And then a negative 1 times a negative 1 makes a positive 1. Again, we go to looping our like terms and then writing our answer 9x squared minus 6x plus 1, because a negative 3x plus a negative 3x makes a negative 6x. All right, I'm going to skip the last 2 on this left side, and I'm going to move over to the right side because there's something here that's a little bit different. So I want you to look, and if you notice, it says 2x minus 1, and then all of that is squared. And so what that tells me as a math student or as a math person that's working on this problem is that I'm going to write that binomial 2 times. So I'm going to write 2x minus 1 on the left, and I'm going to write 2x minus 1 on the top. And you would do the same thing for example number 6. Again, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times a negative 1 is a negative 2x. 2x times a negative 1 again is a negative 2x. And then a negative 1 times a negative 1 makes a positive 1. Again, I would make my loop for my like terms that are diagonal from each other. Starting at top left, I've got 4x squared. I have a negative 2x plus a negative 2x, which is a negative 4x. And then lastly, on the bottom right, a plus 1. You would repeat the same thing for example 6. All right, moving to example 7. If you notice here, we've got 3 terms in the first polynomial and 2 in the last. So it would be written as x squared, 3x, and negative 5. And then on the top, we would have 2x and a minus 8. Now, this is going to get just slightly more complicated, and really that's just adding another layer here. But x squared times 2x, well, that would be 2. And then x squared times x makes x to the third. And as a reminder, when we multiply like bases, we add the exponents. All right, now a negative 8 times x squared is a negative 8x squared. Go to row number 2. 3x times 2x, 3 times 2 is 6. X to the first times x to the first makes x squared. And then we have 3x times negative 8. Well, 3 times negative 8 is negative 24x. All right, and then going down to the bottom, I've got negative 5 times 2x, which is a negative 10x. And then I have a negative 5 times a negative 8, which makes a positive 40. All right, now the other part here, same rules apply. We go with diagonals to find like terms, but in this case, we're going to have 2 sets of like terms because we went all the way out to the third power. Again, we're going to start on the top left with 2x to the third, and then I'm going to add 6x squared minus or plus negative 8x squared, or 6x squared minus 8x squared, which is negative 2x squared. And then I've got a negative 10x plus a negative 24x. That makes a negative 34x. And then lastly, plus 40. All right, I want you to go ahead and attempt, go ahead and pause the video, make an attempt on the last one, then we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, looking at the last one, again, I'm going to write 10x here minus 1, a negative 2x squared, an x, and a negative 5. So I'm going to multiply. Negative 2x squared times 10x is a negative 20x to the third. 10x times x is 10x squared. 10x times negative 5 would be a negative 50x. A negative 2x squared times a negative 1 would be 2x squared. A negative 1 times x would be a negative x. And then a negative 1 times a negative 5 is simply 5. Again, I would go to make my diagonal loops. I'm going to loop my x squareds and loop my x's. Start with a negative 20x to the third. And then I've got 2x squared plus 10x squared makes 12x squared. A negative x or negative 1x and a negative 50x makes a negative 51x. And then lastly, we have plus 5. And that would be my final product. So again, we're taking factors that are polynomials and we're creating a product.